Hello all, it's Ruthie coming to you from Zealous Publishing, talking about how to bust writer's block if you are an advanced writer and you've done a lot of it. If you are a beginner writer and you haven't done a lot of writing, I suggest you check out my video, Busting Writer's Block for Beginners, because in my experience, what causes writer's block in a beginner is very different from what causes writer's block in a seasoned writer, and they require very different approaches to fixing. In fact, I would say opposite. So if you're a beginner, you're very welcome to watch this video, and I'm very touched to have you along, but I think you'll probably find the other video more useful, and I will link it in the description below if you want to check that out. Nice cup of tea. So if you're experiencing writer's block as a seasoned writer, and again, I don't believe that being a seasoned writer has anything to do with publication. It has everything to do with, are you in charge of getting words on the page? And if the answer is yes, and you have regularly demonstrated to yourself competence in the area of showing up and getting words on the paper or the computer screen, this video is for you. Is it writer's block or is it burnout? Because if you are regularly able to turn up to your computer and churn out a word count, and suddenly you can't do it, I think it's probably burnout. It's probably burnout. And if you encounter that, and this is why I say this is exactly the opposite medicine to what I would prescribe for a beginner writer, you may need to back off. And this is so irritating. It's so irritating. I feel like I'm going to make people so irritated with this video, because this video would really irritate me. But a lot of the reason I'm making this video is that I am currently in a very sane place, and I thought, well, I'll make this video while I'm sane and balanced, so that if I get myself into one of those artistic fatigues, I can come and watch this video and listen to my sane self speaking. So if I sound a little bossy and assertive, it's because I see this vision of stupid Ruthie in the future thinking, oh, I'll just keep going, when actually I might need to back off. Because here's the thing with writing, it's such a cerebral pursuit. It seems to happen entirely in the mind. There are people who think that writing is sitting here doing this. But that's not writing, that's typing. That's recording what you wrote in here. Everything happens in here. Now, because everything happens in here, we can work from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed, and then if we wake up in the night, we can still be writing without ever touching the computer or the paper, which means full-time job doesn't really cover it, because we can just do it. It's so mental. And I think what happens when you get very good at doing that is sometimes you can just work until you are in a state of absolute fatigue, and your mind says, you know what, I don't want to do it. And then I think there's an aspect of the artistic temperament that gets engaged, and the artistic temperament can be a little bit on the hysterical side. It's like, oh my gosh, my skill is gone, I can't get words, what's going to happen? It's just, calm down, it will come back. And I think what happens is when you get drained artistically and emotionally, it's a lot harder to be creative. And also, I think that mainly, to a large degree, writers are just creative people, which means that you probably have more than one creative endeavor going on. So you're probably also a musician of some kind, and you might be into acting, and you might be into painting, and maybe you like languages. Look, the list is long. And if you've been just giving on the artistic front, it's like there's a very finite amount of fuel on the inside of an artist. And especially when things are going well and we can really see our vision coming into being, I just find it so addictive, and I find that other artists find it so addictive too. And sometimes we ignore the warning signs that we maybe need to get a little bit more balanced, and we need to pay attention to the fact that you shouldn't do anything 100% of all of the time. And yet writing is one of those things you sort of can. You can be writing while you're making a spaghetti bolognese. You can be writing while you're weeding the garden. You can be writing while you're in the park. You can be writing while you're walking the dog. It never ends. So there's something as writers we've got to really get in control of, saying, you know what, just because I can do it all the time doesn't mean I should do it all the time. And the reality is, I think that's what brings on writer's block in a seasoned writer. It's when we've just gone and gone and gone and gone and gone, and we've allowed our mind to go into that constantly creative state. And at no point have we been willing to check ourselves and wind ourselves back and say, you know what I'm going to do right now is actually take a walk. I'm going to take a walk, and I'm actually going to take a walk down the road and look at the trees and the clouds, not draft dialogue in my head and just, use just enough attention on the physical world that I don't actually get creamed by a truck. The other thing that can be really helpful, which I derive from my religion, but this isn't a religious video. I'm just saying from a psychological point of view, I think this can benefit anyone, even atheists, is that it says in the 10 Commandments, one of the commandments is that you have to honor the seventh day and keep it holy. Now, depending on your religion, it can alter which day that is, but the concept, the underlying principle is that you've got 6 days you can really go for it, but the seventh day needs to be different. It needs to have an element of it needs to be a rest day. It needs to be a rest day. And religiously, we take this attitude because, it says in the Bible, God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. And he didn't need to rest. He rested to set an example for us because he knew we would need to rest. And we rest on the seventh day because we know that he's the one running the universe. So we don't need to worry about it, and we can take the seventh day off. Now, if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God and you think that's just a big fairy tale, that's absolutely fine, because in my experience, atheists tend to be quite rational people. So I bet you'll admit that you're not running the universe either. And that means you too can take a rest, because atheists need a rest as well. And the point is that even though it's derived from a religious source, I think it's useful for anyone to put balance into your life and realize that yes, it's important to make effort. Yes, it's important to push hard. Yes, it's important to pursue goals. But it's such a false calculation to just work and work and work and work, because what happens when you do that is you just push yourself to breaking point, and then you won't be in control of when you can get back into the game of whatever you're doing, because I've found once it moves from the mental to the physical, you're just going to be stuck with the consequences of having pushed yourself to that point. So I think that's a really important thing, that, count off 6 days, and on the 7th day, don't do it. And this, by the way, this is really hard for writers. You have to get an enormous amount of self-control to actually manage that as a writer, because like I said, you can write anywhere, and a writer can lie on a couch with their eyes closed and look like they're relaxing, and they can be drafting a novel in there. So this is something you have to really train hard with, is that on the 7th day, don't allow your mind to write. And to be honest with you, I'm not the best at it. I mean, I try really, really hard, but you know what it's like. You have things just come into your mind, and you have scenes come into your mind, and you have bits of dialogue come into your mind, and you have a stanza of poetry come into your mind. You're like, oh my gosh. It sort of comes out of nowhere, and there's a sense that you have to capture it, and you have to catch it now, or it'll never come again. My experience is just let it go. Let it go. Whether you're trusting in God or you're just trusting in the ebb and flow of life, it's actually worth letting it go, because there's such an advantage to rest. When you rest, you build up the the capacity to be creative. You build up the ability to make things. And I think it's really underrated in our Western world, actually. And we've just got to learn to not go and go and go and go. We have to get balance, because if you just go and go and go and go, eventually you are going to crash. And if you regiment rest, even though it's annoying and it can be very boring, if you regiment rest, when the rest finishes, you can pick up your work and get back to work. If you don't regiment rest, if you just go and go and go and go until you hit absolute burnout and fatigue, I don't want to scare you or anything, but you won't be in control of when the mind allows you to get back up and get back to work. So I would say get ahead of the problem by regimenting rest. Have balance in your life. Take the seventh day and set it aside. And if you're like me and it's really, really hard to actually turn off that creative motor, you know, I do things like I'll read Calvin and Hobbes comic books because I find it's just interesting enough to keep me distracted from going off into my my little inner world and start creating things. So yeah, you need to find something. Sometimes you might need to find something that's just stimulating enough to keep you engaged, so you don't go off and find something to do. So that's my advice to seasoned writers with writer's block. You know it's coming back. You've proven you can write. If you can't write at the moment, there's a reason for it. And the reason is probably because you need to rest. And there's a beautiful verse in the Bible that says, it is a vain thing to get up early and go to bed late, for he, meaning God, giveth his beloved rest. So, you know what? Rest is important. Make sure you're resting, because in the long run, that's going to fill up your creative vat, and it's going to enable you to be way more creative and get way more done than if you just push and push and push and push until you crack. Thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.